I found that she'd made, through the hotel switchboard, 4 or 5 attempts to call me, maybe more, in London where I'd just moved. I was young. I'd just moved to London. I had a nice job on a magazine. I wasn't at home all that much. And she'd not reached me. And I have never been able to rid myself of the idea that if she had, that just hearing my voice, even if she didn't say what was on her mind, she would have had a handhold and stopped it. It doesn't make me feel guilty. I'm not full of reproach, but I do know that there was a failure there.
Was that a hard part?
So I don't want closure for it, thanks.
Was it hard to write about that, though?
Yes, very. I decided that when Jonathan Karp asked me to do a memoir, I thought, well, I'll have to start with Yvonne and the Commander. Indeed, I'll have to start with Yvonne, because I've been putting off writing about it for a long time. I still have my notebook from Athens from that 73, that year. And I did it really in one night, and straight out. And then I read it, and then I wept, much more than I thought I was going to do. But I thought, I don't want anyone else to weep over this. I don't think they will. I hope you don't think it's sentimental.
No, I don't.
And I sent it to the publisher. I said, if this works, if you think this works, then I think I can do the memoir. If you don't like it, then I think we should scrap it.
Let me ask you just one more thing about your mother, because she's such a fascinating person in that you didn't find out until you were in your 40s that she was Jewish. Mm. And she wanted her children, you and your brother Peter, to be, I guess, proper British young
English
fellows and
gentlemen. Yeah. You be the judge.
Yeah. But looking back, do you think that there were clues that you might have missed?
Yes. I mean, I knew there was a family secret. And I knew that and in England, which is very much less what you might call Jew-conscious than the United States is, much less candid about all this, where a lot of people have succeeded in passing for a long time. So that my grandmother, my mother's mother, looked to me when I was a little boy, Dodo, we called her, Mrs. Levin, as I later found was her name. Her married name had been Hickman, so I was thrown off the track.
Yes, exactly.
I thought she had an exotic sort of gypsy-like look to her. But the penny never dropped at all. And my mother didn't even tell my father. He never knew. He wouldn't have minded, I don't think, at all. He was a chauvinist and an insular guy, but he was not a bigot. But his father would have minded really quite a lot. I remembered the great rants from my Baptist paternal grandfather about the sort of diseased-looking foreigners who ran the socialist movement that I'd just joined. Their shady names like Silverman.
Exactly.
And I didn't understand completely what was being meant then either, but I later worked out what had been going on. Anyway, she wanted to make sure that my brother and I didn't have any low-level persecution of the kind she'd had in the 30s.
Right. Your father, the commander, you say of him, he was a man of very few words. And I thought that was so interesting because you're a man of so many words.
I have a story that I meant to tell about him in the book. I'll tell you now if you like. My mother used to like to get up late, and my father was committed to getting up at dawn, as he probably always had done on the ship, and make breakfast for himself down in the kitchen, where there was an old sort of cooking range, that kind of thing. He'd bake himself eggs, strong tea, read the Daily Telegraph, most conservative paper in the country, all by himself. And this is the way he liked to start his day. And I thought one day, maybe it'd be nice to go down and have breakfast with Daddy. So I did. I sort of put on my slippers or whatever. I didn't like getting up early either, but I thought, why not? Patted down, pushed open the kitchen door. He turned. I said, good morning. And he looked at me and said, Jesus Christ, it'll be family prayers next. Maybe I'm giving you an impression of what he was like.
Like father, like son.
Taciturn guy, liked to have his breakfast to himself with the Daily Telegraph. I'm exactly the same way now myself, by the way.
Same
exactly
kind of
like that at breakfast time. There's no point. Don't try.
No prayers, no nothing, right?
Whatever you've got, I don't want it. But so I learned two things from this. One, I'm never doing that again, and I never did. I've never voluntarily had breakfast since then. And
your breakfast
until well on in the day. And then second, I thought, It's interesting, though, because he's just taught me quite a lot about what his father was like. And in my father's Baptist household in Portsmouth, in the dockyards, they did have fucking family prayers.
He read you, though.
Calvinist ones.
He read your writings, though, when you were writing
Yes,
for that socialist rag.
He must have been very disappointed in me because I didn't want to join the Navy. I don't think he would necessarily wanted me to do that. Couldn't have made it if I had wanted to join. Wasn't any good at sports. I didn't care about them. Not interested in them. Wasn't any good at maths or science. He was quite good at physics and algebra and mathematics. In every way, a huge disappointment to him. And I looked like my mother. I looked like a chick. Till I was quite old. I mean, I had long eyelashes and I was quite cute, actually, till I was, which was a
You're
huge,
still kind of cute.
which for a while was a huge burden to me at boarding school, until I was about, so quite advanced. So he can't have been the firstborn son that he wanted. And then I joined the socialist movement and went to work for the New Statesman, which was the most solidly left-wing magazine in London. And I thought, well, this can't have been. But I later found that he was giving little gift subscriptions to the New Statesman at Christmas. Nice. To his very small circle of friends, saying, well, this magazine, quite interesting in its way. My son actually writes for it. I don't think he ever knew that I found that out. Yeah. Rather sweet, that.
You did go to one of those British boarding schools, as we say in this country. You were 8 years old, which is such a young age to be sent off to a boarding school. And all those British boarding schools seem to be such austere. I think you describe it as a totalitarian environment.
Well, it is if you're that small and you're that age, because there's an unassailable authority. And it's physically so much bigger than you are. And it holds the prayer book in one hand, and then a variety of instruments of corporal punishment in the other. So it's a very good preparation for living in a theocracy or a...
Well, you even say Cuba was rather like a boarding school.
Yeah, well, it was too much like it. Too many compulsory games... Too much compulsory games in Cuba, lectures from the headmaster, or very long ones, and sort of admiration of martial virtues and all this kind of thing. It's a bit tiring when you've done all this already for, 7 or 8 years of your life, nearly 10 in my case, in a very monastic, very strict, very enclosed, all-male hothouse.
Yeah. You even
I thought it was worth describing it because I'm the last generation to have done this celebrated routine. They don't do this anymore. So God knows what weaklings they're churning out now. Co-ed, special needs, vegetarian, vegetarian menu, homeopathic medicine, not matron grabbing you by the nuts.
Right. When I was a boy, right? But again, you do describe at this boarding school falling in love with another boy, a guy named Guy. And the way you describe it, it was an introduction to sex in a way, and also to love. And you make that very clear.
Yeah, I hesitated to include it, but I thought I probably had to. And one reason, apart from being honest about myself, was that I thought, well, we still live in a time and a place where there are people who want to criminalize homosexual behavior or declare it to be a disease or a disorder or whatever it might be. And I think the situation might improve quite quickly if the huge number of heterosexual men who actually know this to be true, that they're all a bit gay, or have been at some point, just got that out of the way and said so. And this would be true of a very, very, very large number of the men and boys I know or have known. So I thought, well, I'll start. And it's not just a form of sex, it's a form of love, and as a result requires respect, defense, solidarity, and so forth. So I thought I'd do that.
Yeah.
And also thought I'd try and get the kid out of my system.
But you got in trouble at the school for
Oh, we got terrible trouble.
Yes.
Because it was pretended that no such thing could possibly go on. This was the school. Has anyone seen Goodbye, Mr. Chips, or read it? Mr. Chips was at my school. And if you read the book, his wife says, his wife was a socialist and a feminist and a liberal reformer. At one point where there is, yet again, a nest of homoerotic activity discovered that is supposed